on wins
on
for
wins
for that team?
5?
6.
6. Okay, goes with 6. Okay.
I go with 6.
All right.
I mean, that's I guess that's not my over and under. If I was going to pick an over and under, I'd have to pick maybe like 4, and I'd go over.
You'd go over the – okay. Well, I took 5 and you went over.
Yeah, so I'm over.
Okay, you're over. All right, now to your question. Would I rather have a buttload of wins and have everybody in the world hate me?
Yeah.
Or have everybody in the world love me and not have a buttload of wins? Have a small amount of
wins.
Have
to constantly answer the question after every week, what's wrong with Junior? What's wrong with you? Why can't you win?
I get that question asked me every week. I love you, but what's wrong with you? I hear that all the time. Yeah. So I guess I will go with that one, just because it's familiar. I don't have the other one down.
That's kind of a cop-out.
Yeah, it is.
We have Judy Chadwick on
okay. Let's
on
hear what
Facebook.
Judy has
she
to
said
say.
Anybody but Kyle Busch. See,
I don't understand that. I guess
I don't either.
That doesn't answer the question.
No,
I mean,
it
do you want people to? Do you want to be successful and have people hate you, or do you want to be less successful and have people love you? I'd rather take the less success and have people love me, but that's just the way I am. I don't have the personality type to pull off the Kyle Busch thing. And we were talking about it in the last segment, is that I think Kyle Busch is pretty Genuine. What you see is pretty much what you get. At least that's the impression I get. And from Kurt, I think Kurt really tried to be the bad boy for a while because he thought there was a place in NASCAR that they needed.
You don't think he really was the bad boy?
Well, I think he became the bad boy kind of by default. He kind of started tripping into his own press clippings in some degree. But I think Kyle is what Kyle is, and that is he's a brash, successful, talented person who rubs an awful lot of people the wrong way.
So you'd rather be...
I'd rather be Junior. I'd rather be Junior and have people like me and rest on my successes from my earlier portion of my career and hope that somewhere along the line I'm going to regain that electricity that I had early on.
Here's what I think Junior has as his life goes on. I mean, both of these guys have all the money. It's never going to be about money. They got plenty of money. Right? They're going to be able to do whatever, live however they want to live and take care of their families and all that stuff. Not an issue. So the difference is your legacy. And I think Junior's going to have a harder time living with his legacy, and what he's living with that Kyle doesn't have is that legacy of his dad's.
Right.
Okay. And I've been reading Jay Gers's book, In the Red, which is a terrific book. It's about that 2001 season. You know, the season is that Senior was killed and Junior carried on.
Continued on.
And if you read that, and that's all you ever read about Junior's racing history, that was it, you'd be in, man. You're all in. That's it.
He's the guy.
But there's been some things that have happened since then. I think, for me, I think it's a very hard question to answer, and I would opt for Kyle Busch because he is, to me, one of those once-in-a-generation talents in his particular sport. I really believe that. Okay. I think he's the best right now. I don't think it's close, really. I think he's what Jeff Gordon was when Gordon came out 20 years ago, and I don't think there's been one since then that came out quite like this. And I think it would be, God, just to live with that talent, to be as good as that is and what you can do in your given field. You know, it's like being Al Kaline or...
Well, don't you think it hurts Junior somewhat that most of his success came before that 2001 season? He was more successful.
It really wasn't.
DEI.
No, it came after. It came after the 2001 season. Is 01, 02, and 03 is when he had most of his success. He had one win, I think, before 2001.
Okay.
But
it was early.
It was with DEI when they had something figured out on those restrictor plate tracks, and I think that was a carryover from the guy who owned the team, which was Senior. All right.
Correct.
Senior had something to do with that. They were building their own engines. He was helping to set those cars up. They had something figured out. He shared whatever. You know, it was always that thing with Senior. You can see the air on the plate tracks and something. He had something figured out on restrictor plate cars.
Right.
and he shared that with
And not
that
only did he have it figured out, he was able to share it.
and make it work.
Right.
And it worked not just for Junior, it worked for Michael Waltrip, for crying out loud.
If it could work for Michael
No, I'm not,
Waltrip,
I'm kind of getting on Michael a little bit. Michael's a fine race car driver, but come on. They dominated plate tracks for about 4 years.
Exactly.
And there was something in those cars. Nothing illegal. I mean, they went through tech all the time. I mean, unless NASCAR was in on something, they had something figured out. But ever since that edge, ever since that, what did Mark Donohue call it? The unfair advantage. Ever since they lost that unfair advantage, the success has not been there for Junior. He hasn't been able to jump into a car and just go out and drive.
And that unfair advantage went away when DEI, as we know it, went away.
Kind of went away, yeah.
Right.
And as that team disintegrated before it totally went away. So yeah, I think there's going to be some living with a legacy there. And now maybe Junior could get on a roll with Hendrick, and maybe he's finally got the right crew chief combo, and they get things figured out with
a long time to develop.
Right. And if they could run together 2 or 3 years where they're real successful, maybe it would change my mind. But right now, if I had to pick one of those two drivers, who I would be, I'd be Kyle Busch. You'd be Dale Earnhardt.
Do you think Kyle? You're talking about him about Kyle Busch being the best driver that there is, all these wins. Would it change your mind at all if he were not so prolific? If he hadn't raced so much in the Truck Series and in the Nationwide Series, if once he got to Cup, if he kind of let those other two fall by the wayside, and he was only a Cup driver, I
think it would have been harder to see his brilliance. Okay, now maybe I'm. What the hell do I know? But I'm just telling you what I see.
Hey, you know more than most.
I'm just telling you what I see. The fact that he's got all those wins, he still had to win the races. All right, there's a lot of talented guys in both those series that he beats almost every time he's out there, all right? It's not all equipment. It's him.
Well, he's had some dang good equipment.
He's had good equipment, but he's racing against other teams that have real good equipment too.
Well, the thing is, I think, especially when you look at the Nationwide Series, when you look at the quality of the equipment that he's had from Joe Gibbs Racing, he has made the most of it, because there have been other people that have gotten in those cars when he's not been in it, and they have not had the amount of success. It's been a successful program. Don't get me wrong. The Nationwide Series program from Joe Gibbs Racing has been terrific, but the point is that it hasn't been as good when he's not been in the car. So I give him the credit for being a hell of a talent.
I know you don't feel the same way about him I do. I see stuff that. And it's some of it's just little moves, like the moves in the race at Daytona, the Bud Shootout. That was unbelievable. I mean that example of driving. If I had to pick one race where I saw unbelievable in a driver's name, just anything, and I watched a lot of races, that would be the one. I just could not believe what I was watching. I remember seeing Jeff Gordon do some things like that.
Right.
I did. I do. But that's just from my limited observation. I think he's the best. And if he hadn't won 50-some Nationwide Series races and however many truck races, I guess maybe I wouldn't have as much evidence to feel as strongly as I do about this right now. But
all right. We would like to hear from you. So make sure you keep commenting on our Facebook page or at Bench Racing or at On Pit Row on Twitter, either one of those two. We're going to step aside for our top of the